it was just like you're suddenly in, I don't know, there was no build up. There was no build up whatsoever. It was literally 0 to 100. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well, and this is my December reading wrap up. For my reading stats this month, I read 10 books in total, 3,736 pages, and I had an average rating of 4.12 stars. And I have a little pie chart here of all the genres that I read. So the one I had the most of was thrillers. I had 4 thrillers, 2 fantasy, 1 romance, 1 sci-fi, 1 dystopian, and 1 dark romance. So we have a really big range here, I think. I think I will be doing a couple like end of year wrap-ups that I will come out with in January. So if you guys are interested in how my reading year went, then stay tuned. So December was definitely my best reading month. I got through 10 books in total. I will be trying to keep this short and sweet per book. I'll give you my rating, kind of overall thoughts, and we'll try and keep it there so I don't delve into details. And the first one is A Court of Silver Flames. I enjoyed this book more than I thought I would in the end. I had a lot of conflicting feelings with Nesta. When I started this, I was definitely on the not really condoning, not really liking her that much. She did redeem a lot of herself to me in Court Wings and Ruin. I did see like new glimpses into her personality and, you know, her as a character. Nesta is still not my favorite character. I know a lot of people really kind of feel and identify with her, older sibling, all that stuff. I'm an older sibling, and to be honest, I can see the struggles that she has, but I just think still that the actions that she did in the past, they just can't be erased. So I don't think I could ever love her, but I definitely understand her as a character a lot more from this book. However, the pacing in this was so much longer. This book, it is a long book, but like it felt long. This book is very much a journey of Nessa's character, which I liked, but I think it could have been a bit shorter, is the truth. All the action gets really compacted into the end, which honestly means the book still ended on a really high note. I really like the ending. It just felt a little bit long for me, so I gave this 4 stars. And we have another fantasy read. I read 6 of Crows. This book I put off reading for genuinely years, and I regretted doing that so much because I fell in love with this book. The characters in this are so well developed, they're so well fleshed out. This really does feel like the older, more developed sibling to Shadow and Bone, and I love that the characters in this are so multi-layered, and I think that's a really big difference because in Shadow and Bone, the characters feel a lot more one-dimensional. The Darkling, I would say, is probably the person that felt the most multi-layered in all of those characters, and I shipped him until the end, to be honest. But he didn't really get a redemption arc or something. Not that anyone in here gets that, but like, I just loved this book. The journey that you go on with the characters, with their stories, and with the heist, I just loved it. The only thing I would say is maybe some more scenes of the heist. It did feel quite fast-paced until the end, but even then, like, the pacing throughout the book is so well-paced because you're getting these flashbacks that do serve a purpose. I know that some people maybe don't like that, but I think that they allow you to get to know the characters so well. I love every single character. I just do. Inej and Kaz, I was rooting for them so hard, and it's heart-wrenching, it's gut-wrenching. I loved it. I am nervous and excited to read Crooked Kingdom. I gave it 5 stars. Another book that I put off reading for ages, 1984. So with this one, I mainly put this off because sometimes when it comes to quite a few classics, I have to be in the right headspace to read it, especially when it is an older book, because you don't always know how well it reads or kind of translates into modern day times. And with this, I put it off because of that reason, and also because I kind of knew the premise of this book. But I am so happy I read this. I, again, am a bit annoyed that I put off reading this for so long, because even, like, I'm sure so many people know the premise of this, but if you've not read it and you, I don't know, you like a bit of commentary on, like, society and totalitarian, like, society and politics and the way that the current state of affairs in the world is, it made reading this feel so relevant to me. And genuinely, it sounds so over the top, but this actually had way more of a profound impact on me than I ever expected out of it. I really just thought that this was just very kind of like, it was just going to be a dystopian read, you know, you're just seeing like an old school dystopian book, how things are. But this is so eerie. This is not like a normal dystopian book that you would read. It felt so eerie to me and a little bit scary, because genuinely when I was reading this, I actually felt like so many of these things could happen now. And that was the most worrying thing from this, is that it left me feeling so empty afterwards, sat there staring at the wall like, oh my goodness, the world could really go this way. So if you've not read this, I really recommend it. As a side note, if you like audiobooks, there's a dramatized version of this on Audible that's narrated by like Andrew Garfield, Cynthia Erivo, who else is in it? Like Tom Hardy, Andrew Scott, some brilliant actors, and it's such a great adaptation, so I really recommend that. I ended up rating this a 5 stars, but I think that this is like injected into my veins forever. It's actually, I don't know, it's affected me in a way that I can't quite describe. I read all of The Housemaid, so I've got The Housemaid, The Housemaid's Secret, The Housemaid's Watching, and then I read the Housemaid's Wedding novella on my Kindle as well. So because these are thrillers, I really don't want to give much away. So The Housemaid, the twist in this half got me. There was kind of 2 twists, I think, 2 really big revelations, like the twist on who the bad person is, and then the twist of explaining the whole background story of what was actually going on the whole time. I guessed who the bad person was, but I did not guess the like background story twist. I think that was so good, and I really liked the way that it was like laid out for the reader, like the step-by-step guide. I really liked that part of it. It really kept me on my toes. I was very intrigued throughout. I never lost interest while reading this, so I do think it's a really strong read. It's not very creepy. It just kind of keeps you on your toes, and you definitely are just thinking like, what's gonna happen next? And yeah, it's just a good bit of fun, good, nice, fast-paced read for sure. So I gave this a 4.5 stars. And for The Housemaid's Secret, the pacing in this was not quite as good for the beginning, and I think that's just because in terms of the beginning of the story, because we're familiar with characters, well, at least I was not sat there kind of so on my toes about exactly what was going to happen, because I already knew some of the characters and kind of, okay, I kind of know what they're thinking or what they may or may not do. But the twist in this, I didn't guess any of the twist in this at all. So this, I think, in terms of the plot twist, was actually stronger than the first book, because I didn't guess the bad guy in this. Like, in the way that this all unfolded was really, really good. And the epilogue, yeah, that one got me. It really did. So I gave this a 4.25 stars. And The Housemaid is Watching. This one, I really don't think it was as strong as the first 2 books. This one has a much bigger time jump into the future, and it has a really, really different vibe. Our main characters are, they are in a different stage of their lives, and I think that's something to, definitely keep in mind. But for me, because of that, I felt like the characters, they didn't feel like the same people anymore. I felt way more disconnected, really, really distant, and I didn't like certain things that was going on in this. However, the twist did get me, but the epilogue didn't, surprisingly enough. What the epilogue was what I thought the twist was going to be. Obviously, this may not make sense if you've not read it. That's kind of how I felt. This literally, like, while reading, I felt like I was watching Desperate Housewives, but it didn't feel like Desperate Housewives because it's just like the wrong characters and not the same vibe. But it's still not the same vibe as like the first 2 books. So it's really hard to describe, but I didn't connect with the characters. Not that I connect with the characters, okay, in the previous ones, but I don't know, I just felt like I didn't know them anymore, and I felt really distant. So I rated this one a 3.5 stars. So after I finished A Housemaid is Watching, I actually went and read The Housemaid's Wedding, which is the novella for the series, right after. But unfortunately, I didn't realize before reading it that it was set in between the second and third book. So I would have liked to have read it chronologically. But aside from that point, The novella did not really give me much substance in my opinion. We only kind of get to follow an event that happens, and it's kind of like, oh, that's a nice event to follow. It's nice to see things happening, but I noticed quite a lot of plot holes, I think, or maybe like undeveloped things that she like Frida put in that could have been plot lines. But because I'd read The Housemaid is Watching, obviously I knew that all of those random things that go on, the epilogue, okay, it's just irrelevant. Like, I know that it has absolutely no importance in the end, which really kind of tainted reading it, I think, because at least if I'd read it in between, I probably would have been like, oh, you know, The Housemaid's Watching is going to be way more juicy. I'm going to see these things, these characters pop up, but no, nothing. So I feel like the novella was, I don't want to be super mean, but like, I just feel like it was a bit pointless. I think that the event that we follow could have just been a chapter, past tense, in A Housemaid's Watching. I think that it could have just been in that. I really don't think it was necessary to have. I guess it's a bit of fan service, but it didn't add anything for the story to me. I gave it 2.5 stars. Now that I think about it more, I'm kind of like, I think it's 2 stars really. Am I going to change my rating? I might. And on to the next, I read Hooked by Emily McIntyre. If you're not familiar, it's a Peter Pan retelling but dark romance edition where Captain Hook is the main character. Yeah, it's set in modern day times. This book, I went in very unexpectedly and blindly, to be honest, because I already knew that it was a retelling, so it was kind of like, I'll just see what I get from it. I'll just see. It was interesting. I was entertained, so it was interesting. I was definitely entertained, and I would say the good aspects of this is that, well, it's entertaining, and I actually really enjoyed these small, like, references to the original story. There were well-placed references throughout that you kind of like, oh yeah, that's a little nod to like OG Peter Pan, okay, I get it. But the guy's fear of clocks was really like bugging me out, because it was just kind of like, is the fear that serious? Does it warrant the visceral reaction, to say the least? Your literal like incandescent with rage reaction to the clocks. If you know, you know what goes on. When I found out nearer to the end as to why he's afraid of the clocks, I'm like, do you know what? I understand. I get it, but I don't get the previous reaction still. I feel like it was just a little bit too much. I think that you have to read this when you're not gonna think about things very seriously, just because a lot of it obviously felt very far-fetched. I just didn't really root for the main characters and the romance that's in this. I don't know, it felt really insta-lusty from the beginning, first of all, but then later on it just felt insta-lovey. Like, when love happened, or declaration sort of happened, I mean, the reader kind of knows about a declaration before the characters, but it was just like you're suddenly in, I don't know, there was no build up. There was no build up whatsoever. It was literally 0 to 100. It did not give me time to even connect with the characters. Not that I even really could connect with them. Like, they just felt quite far-fetched as people, and yeah. But to be honest, even the twist in the end, do you know what? I didn't predict it, but I did not like it either. It was one of the things when I'm like, seriously? It wasn't like, whoa. That's how I felt. It's okay. It's just a bit of entertainment, I think. Something to not think very seriously about. So, I mean, if you're in between a series or something, could be a good palate cleanser. Depends if it's your cup of tea. I rated it at 3.25 stars because I probably would have given it 3, but I feel like because I actually felt entertained enough, and even though some of the serious things were actually making me laugh, it was still like, it's still entertaining, so I will give it that. And the next book is a romance. I read The Things We Left Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. This book I also went into completely blind. I honestly do this most of the time. When I choose a book or buy a book, it's either because I really, really want to read it based off the blurb and the things I know about it, or I get it based off vibes. So those are the two personalities I have. This one, I just picked it based off vibes, and I was really pleasantly surprised. So in this book, there's kind of like a dual timeline going on, and to me, I was much more invested in the past timeline, which I think most people probably would be, because we don't actually see that much of the present. It's a lot shorter in terms of the time frame. The past timeline is much longer. So I really liked it. I also really rooted for the characters in the past, way more than the ones in the present. The ones in the present, I was like, it's still nice. I still like it. I think that you guys are still cute, but I just didn't care that much. I think I would have preferred for them to have not had a romance in the present and then ended it with Georgia still kind of healing from her experiences. But I guess the whole idea is that she's healing and she finds love. So, okay. I can see it. This story was honestly just heart-wrenching. Like, it really made me feel really emotional. The way that the past story ends, it's like, this is a story of romantic love, familial love, sister love, like, you know, the things that people will do to keep promises to family and everything. I think that it's a really beautiful, heart-wrenching story, and I really enjoyed it. The only real criticism I have is that with the dual timeline, it did get a little bit jarring sometimes, because the pacing would be a little bit uneven. Like, we would get to a lot of climax going on in the past, and then suddenly it switches, and it's like the most, okay, not maybe not the most relaxed thing going on, but it did not compare. The kinds of climax that would go on would be like a little argument, and it's just like, I mean, the previous one set during the war, so the tension, and not just between characters, like the tenseness of the scenes were so mismatched. So it just felt really oddly placed sometimes. But aside from that, I really did enjoy it. And it definitely surprised me, because when I first started reading it, I was a little bit uncertain and like, I really don't know how I'm going to feel about this. But it really snuck up on me, to be honest. So I gave it a 4.25 stars. And my final book is A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is technically a reread. This is one of my like childhood favorite books, and I thought I would try read it again as an adult and just see if I actually still love it as much. And I do. I think I just love it in a completely different way now. First of all, literally nothing I would change about this book. What I appreciate the most as an adult is definitely just how witty it is, and the actual craftsmanship of the narration in it. It is actually top tier. I didn't really notice it as much when I was younger. When I was younger, it was just so like comedic, slapstick funny, but as an adult, I see so much more of what is actually being spoken about, and all the smallest references to modern day society, bureaucracy, the human species as a whole, the way that people think, like a lot of it, all of that literally went over my head when I was a kid. So I'm really glad that I decided to read it again as an adult, and honestly, it's such a good, quick, fun read. It's a really good, like, unserious sci-fi novel to read if you've not read it. I would really recommend it if you want to try out some sci-fi, or you want to like read something that just, it feels really unserious but still you can think about it seriously, if that makes sense. That was a 5-star read when I was a kid. It's a 5-star read now. It's entered my forever favorites, I think, now. That is all 10 books that I read. I seriously hope I did not yap for a ridiculous amount of time. We'll find out when I edit this. I think that it's been a really interesting, strange reading year for me. I had like slumps. I've read a lot of random strange books. And that's probably how things will carry on. I will literally try anything out. I will read something based off of curiosity, even if I end up hating it. I will just do it. I genuinely can't believe that is it for 2024. That's it for the books of 2024. Like, it's just crazy. 2025, here we come. And I'm gonna have to start thinking of like my new bookish resolutions. One of them, no. I mean, one of the things that I kind of want to see if I can do in the future is DNF books. I have a really big issue with this. I don't know how to DNF books. And that's literally because I need to know how it ends. because I also feel like, again, even if I actually really don't like the book, it's just, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm sure there's other people that actually feel this way. It's like, if I don't like it, I feel like I have to know every single reason why I don't like it to be able to explain to someone if they ask me. Please tell me if you guys actually DNF books, because I just don't know how to do it. I don't know how I can start telling myself to, but I don't know if I want to. I also don't always know where my mind is going when I'm reading it, but to me, I'm like, I'm in the thick of it. I'm just gonna finish it and we'll wrap this up. I hope you guys enjoyed my maybe ramble about all of my December reads. Overall, it was a pretty good reading month. It was my best reading month of the year, as I said previously, and I think that I got quite a few different genres and just some nice mix and matching here and there. Overall, enjoyed most of what I read, so that's always a plus. I love it when you read a book and it just books properly. Do you know what I mean? Six of Crows. I have to keep plugging that. Six of Crows. I will try to upload more content from now. I've been a little bit quiet on here, but don't forget that I also have my other book socials. I have a Bookstagram and BookTok account. I do link them below in the description if you guys feel like meeting me over there. And I'll also link my Fable account because I switched to Fable pretty recently and I'm genuinely so obsessed with using it. I love the like community feeling and I love the book clubs and I just love everything about Fable. It's a way more fun interactive way of using a like book app rather than Goodreads. I still use Goodreads because I'm a creature of habit, but Fable is my fun space. It's my fun book space. So I really enjoy it there. But that concludes this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you guys did, please go down, hit the like button and consider subscribing to join the gang, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!